On my 22nd birthday, my sister stood up, clinked her glass against her wine, and ruined my life with a single sentence. "To the birthday girl," she said, smiling wide enough for every phone camera in the room. "To our miracle, or should I say, another man's mistake." The room went quiet so fast it felt like someone had sucked the air out of it. I laughed at first. I actually laughed. Because that's what you do when you're the family punching bag. You laugh it off. You pretend it doesn't sting. You pretend your heart didn't just slam against your ribs so hard you felt dizzy. But then she said it again. "Come on, Maya," my sister Rachel added, waving a small white envelope in the air like it was a raffle ticket. "You know, we've all been wondering. I just thought, since it's your birthday, you deserved the truth." Everybody's eyes were on her, on me, on that envelope. I could hear the ice clinking in glasses, the tiny buzz of someone's phone on the counter, my mom's nervous little fake laugh, my dad's throat clearing, and suddenly I wasn't laughing anymore. "What are you talking about?" I asked, even though I knew. Even though my stomach already knew before my brain caught up. Rachel stepped closer, her heels loud on the hardwood. "You," she said slowly, as if I was stupid, "are the reason Dad almost left us. Remember? All those late-night fights, the whispers. Is she even mine?" She tilted her head mockingly. "Ring a bell?" I felt the blood drain from my face. I knew about the fights. Everyone did. The walls in our house were thin. But I had never heard the full sentences, only broken pieces through doors and vents. My name, my father's raised voice, my mother's crying. Words like trust and mistake and past. But I had never, ever heard it put that way. "Rachel?" My mom's voice cut through, sharp and warning. "That's enough." "No, Mom, it's not," Rachel said, still staring at me. "Maya's a big girl now. She deserves answers, right? And we deserve peace." She slapped the envelope down in front of me on the dining table, right between my half-eaten slice of cake and the birthday card from my aunt. I stared at it. "It's a DNA test," she said. "I ordered it months ago. We all did it. Me, you, Dad. Just for fun, you know? Ancestry, family tree, that kind of thing." She shrugged. "But then I saw your results, and I thought, why not make this night memorable?" Her smile was poison. All I could hear was the pounding in my ears. "This is sick," I whispered. "It's the truth," she whispered back. I looked at my dad, searching his face for something, anything. Anger, denial, reassurance, a joke, a sign that this was all one of Rachel's twisted little performances that always ended with, "Relax, I'm kidding." But he wasn't laughing. He was staring down at his glass, jaw tight, knuckles white where his fingers gripped the stem. My mom looked between us like a trapped animal. Her lips parted, but no sound coming out. Everyone else, the cousins, the neighbors, my two close friends, were frozen. No one moved to stop this. No one knew how. Rachel tapped the envelope again. "Go on, birthday girl, open it." I should have walked away. I should have thrown it in her face and said I didn't care, that her truth meant nothing. I should have ended it right there, before it swallowed me. But I didn't. I picked up the envelope with shaking hands and tore it open. The paper inside was thick, smooth. The kind of paper that's supposed to carry things like certificates and fancy invitations, not the weight of your identity. I unfolded it and saw the words in bold at the top, paternity result, and then, lower, alleged father, Mark Thomas Reed. That was my dad's full name. Probability of paternity, 0.0%. The room tilted. I blinked, convinced I was reading it wrong. I read it again. 0.0%. Not 50, not 99, not even 10. 0. Completely, absolutely, scientifically outside his bloodline. The kind of number that shut every door. For a moment, I forgot anyone else existed. It was just me, the paper, and this deep black hole opening up under my feet. I heard someone gasp. I didn't know if it was me or my mom. Rachel leaned closer to peek at the paper, even though she already knew. She'd already seen it. She had been waiting for this moment, savoring it. "Oh," she said lightly. "Guess the rumors were true." That snapped something in me. "What is wrong with you?" I said, my voice hoarse. "You did this, here, now, in front of everyone." She just lifted a shoulder. "Better now than another decade of pretending, right?" I turned to my mother. "Mom," I said, and it came out as a plea. "Tell me this is a mistake. Tell me this is a joke, please. Her eyes filled with tears. She opened her mouth, closed it, looked at my dad like she was begging him to speak first. He didn't. He got up instead. Quietly. Too quietly. He set his glass down so gently it barely made a sound, pushed his chair back, and walked out of the room. I watched him leave. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at anyone. Just left his own daughter's birthday party without a word. My chest cracked. "Dad!" I called after him, but my voice broke halfway through. Nobody followed him. Nobody moved. It was like the whole house had turned into a courtroom, and I was on trial, and nobody wanted to be the first to stand up. Except Rachel. "Wow," she said under her breath. "Guess you finally got your answer." I don't remember moving. I don't remember deciding to stand up. All I know is the next second I was on my feet, the chair scraping back behind me, the paper shaking in my hand. "You knew," I said to her, my voice shaking. "You knew this would destroy him. And you didn't care?" "Oh, please," she scoffed. "Destroy him? He's the one who's been torturing Mom for years over this. Asking, hinting, making jokes, going cold. You think I did this for fun? I did this for us, for our family. We can't heal from lies." "And it had to be at my birthday?" I shouted. She rolled her eyes. "It's not like you were going to do anything more exciting this year." Something in my face must have changed, because I saw her flinch for half a second. Half a second where some tiny part of her understood she had crossed a line even she couldn't laugh her way back from. Then it was gone. I could feel everyone staring at me, waiting to see if I would cry or scream or run out like my dad. Instead, I set the paper down on the cake plate, right next to the pink frosting that now looked disgusting, and looked directly at her. "When this comes back on you," I said quietly, "I hope you remember you started it." She smirked. "What, you're going to hunt down your real dad now? Maybe he can buy you another cake." I didn't answer. I grabbed my keys from the counter, walked past the stunned faces, and headed for the door. My mom's voice finally came back to life. "Maya, wait!" she cried. But I couldn't. Not with everyone watching. Not with that paper still on the table like a piece of rotted meat. I walked out of my own birthday party and left them all behind. The night air hit me hard, cool and sharp. I climbed into my car, shut the door, and finally let myself cry. I sobbed into my palms until my chest hurt, until my throat burned, until my head pounded. All the questions I never dared ask now screamed in my skull. Who am I? Whose mistake am I? Why wasn't I enough for him to stay in that room? How could my sister do this to me? I wish I could say that in that moment I decided on some noble path, that I rose above it, or that I forgave them. I didn't. That night, something in me hardened. I didn't know it yet, but Rachel had just kicked off a chain of events that would expose more than just one secret. She thought she had humiliated me. She thought she had turned the whole room against me. She had no idea she'd just lit the match that would burn her perfect little life to the ground, because I wasn't going to stay their mistake. I was going to become their reckoning. I didn't go home that night. I drove aimlessly at first, the streetlights blurring through my tears, my phone lighting up with calls and messages I ignored. "Mom, please pick up. Rachel, you're being dramatic." Unknown number, probably some relative trying to check on me for gossip later. I ended up in the parking lot of a 24-hour grocery store, sitting under the dim yellow glow of a lamppost. The sobbing finally slowed to shallow breaths. My hands still shook, but at least I could think again. I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror, the smeared eyeliner, the red eyes, the birthday dress I had been so excited about that morning. "Who are you?" I whispered. The girl in the mirror just looked back at me, hollow. I pulled my phone out and opened the DNA email app. I remembered Rachel had mentioned something about it when she was bragging. My sister had forwarded everything to our family group chat a few days ago with some cheesy comment about fun family tree results. I hadn't cared enough to open it then. I was busy with work, late nights, just surviving. Now I scrolled back until I found it. "Your DNA results are in," the subject line said. My thumb hovered over it. I hesitated. Some tiny part of me still hoped this was all a misunderstanding, that maybe she had swapped labels, or that the paper she'd printed was wrong. Maybe the real results would show some percentage, any percentage, that would anchor me back to the man I had called Dad my whole life. I opened the email. The layout was clean and colorful, with graphs and percentages and little flags of different countries. family heritage scattered across continents. Interesting in any other life. I scrolled until I reached the section that made my chest tighten. DNA matches. First immediate family. Mother, Linda Reed, parent child, 50%. Father, no close paternal match found. I swallowed. There were other matches. Cousins. Some names I recognized from my mother's side. Some I didn't. And then, halfway down the list, under close family possible half-sibling, a name I had never seen before. Lucas Meyer, likely half-sibling, shared DNA 26%. I froze. A half-sibling. Someone out there who shared half my blood. Someone whose name had never once been mentioned in my house. With a last name that wasn't Reed. Meyer. My heart started racing again, but in a different way this time. Less like I was falling, more like I'd grabbed onto something sharp in the dark. I clicked on his profile through the site. Born, 1997. Age, 26. Location, same city. My skin prickled. He was here. I stared at the last name, Meyer, running it through my brain, trying to see if it unlocked anything. Old stories, old photos, old whispers. Then I remembered something. When I was about 9, I had walked into the kitchen late one night to get water. Mom was sitting at the table, eyes swollen, staring at an old photo album. I had peeked over her shoulder. She flipped the page so fast I barely saw the face. Just a flash of a tall guy with dark hair, standing next to her at what looked like a fair. "Who's that?" I'd asked. "No one," she'd said too quickly. "Go back to bed, sweetheart." "Is he family?" I'd pushed. "Just someone from before," she'd whispered, and closed the album like it hurt to touch it. Before what? Before Dad? Before me? I had forgotten about that moment over the years, buried under school, friends, petty fights, day-to-day worries. Now it surfaced, sharp and clear. Meyer. I opened a new tab and searched the last name with my mom's maiden name. Nothing obvious. Then I searched Lucas on social media. There were hundreds, but I narrowed it down by age and city. A few profiles remained. One of them showed a guy with dark hair and deep-set eyes standing in front of a coffee shop I recognized downtown. I stared. He looked weirdly familiar. Not like my dad, not like Rachel, but there was something around the eyes, the shape of the jawline that tugged at me. Was this my brother? A stranger who shared my childhood without me? Somewhere else? Before I could overthink it, I sent him a short message. "Hi, this is going to sound crazy, but I think we might be related. Did you recently do a DNA test through company name? Maya." I almost deleted it 3 times. Then I hit send. My finger hovered over the block button in case he responded with some nasty joke, in case this turned into yet another humiliation. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then my phone buzzed. "Yeah, I did," he wrote back. "Maya, Reed?" My heart skipped. "Yes," I typed. His reply came almost immediately. "Holy, I've been staring at your name for days, trying to decide if I should reach out. I think we share a father." I stared at that line until it blurred. We share a father. I typed slowly, fingers trembling. "Who do you think that is?" There was a pause. Then, "My mom always said his name was Daniel. Daniel Meyer. They met when she was waitressing. He left before I was born. I spent my whole life wondering if he had another family. Our match confirms it." Daniel. I didn't know a Daniel, but my mother might. I swallowed, my throat dry. "Do you have any photos of him?" I asked. He sent one. It was grainy, clearly scanned from an old picture, but I could make out a man in his 20s with dark hair and a smile that was both soft and sharp at the same time. His arm was around a woman who had been cut out of the frame. Only her shoulder and a hint of her hair remained. Something in my chest twisted. Even in that bad quality picture, I could see it. Not in a dramatic, movie way, just subtle things. The tilt of the head, the shape of the cheekbones. Things I had never shared with the man who raised me, the man I thought was my father. I didn't know what to say. "I think that's my mother in the part you cut off," I sent finally, before I could stop myself. "Or at least someone who looks a lot like her." There was a long pause this time. Then, "Do you want to meet?" he asked. The question hung there, huge and impossible and yet weirdly simple. Did I? Did I want to walk into another person's life, another secret, when I was already drowning in one? Then I remembered Rachel's voice. Maybe he can buy you another cake. The way my dad had walked out, the suffocating silence at that table. Yes, I did want to meet him. But not just because I wanted answers. Part of me, a darker part I hadn't known existed until that night, wanted something else. I wanted leverage. You know what? I replied. Yeah, I do. We set a time for the next afternoon at a cafe halfway between our neighborhoods. When I finally put my phone down, the numbness that had wrapped around me started to change. It wasn't comfort. It wasn't peace. It was focus. Rachel thought she had written the end of my story that night. The illegitimate child, the outsider, the girl whose dad never really wanted her. She had no idea she'd just given me the start of hers. I didn't sleep much. I drove to a cheap motel instead of going home, using my emergency credit card, the one my parents had given me for breakdowns and serious things. This felt serious enough. In the faded room with thin sheets and humming air conditioning, I lay on my back and stared at the ceiling, replaying the party over and over. The looks, the whisper someone thought I couldn't hear. I always did think she looked different. Rachel's satisfied smirk, my mother's paralyzed face. I wondered what they were doing now, arguing, silent, blaming me? At some point, my phone buzzed again. It was my mother. Her text was long, but all it said, through all the apologies and explanations, was this. I never meant for you to find out like that. Not that it wasn't true, not that the test was wrong, just the way. For a second, I almost replied with something simple. I know, but I didn't. Because did I know? Did I really? Did I know what it felt like for a woman to have her past thrown in her face? For a man to feel betrayed? For a family to crack along a line that had been there all along, only now suddenly visible? No. What I knew was how it felt to be the one standing in the middle of it, cut open for everyone to see. So I turned my phone off and tried to rest, saving every ounce of strength for the next day. The cafe was loud. People moaned over espresso shots, laptops clicked, milk steamers hissed. The chaos was almost comforting. I sat at a corner table by the window, my hands wrapped around a cup of coffee I barely drank. Every time the door opened, I tensed. Then, around 10 minutes past our agreed time, I saw him. He stepped in, looked around, and our eyes met. Lucas. He was taller than in his photos. Dark hair, a little messy, faded denim jacket. The kind of casual confidence you only get when you've never been taught to doubt your right to exist. He walked over and I stood up, suddenly hyper-aware of everything. My hair, my clothes, my posture. Hey, he said, with a small, almost shy smile. Maya? Yeah, I said, hoping my voice sounded steadier than I felt. Hi, Lucas? For a few seconds, we just looked at each other, like we were trying to find ourselves in the other's face. He was the first to laugh. This is weird, right? He said. Extremely, I agreed. We sat. I expected him to bombard me with questions, but instead, he watched me carefully, like he was gauging how far to push. I'm guessing something happened, he said gently. You looked pretty freaked out when you messaged me last night. I let out a shaky breath. You could say that. He waited. My sister decided to turn my birthday into a reality show reveal, I said bitterly. She did a DNA test, waved the paper in my face, and announced in front of our whole family that my dad isn't my father. His eyes widened. You're kidding. I wish I were, I said. So yeah, that's how I found out I might have a half-brother. Wow, he said softly. I'm sorry. That's brutal. The sympathy in his voice almost undid me. It had been less than 24 hours since everything shattered, and already this stranger sitting across from me was treating me with more care than the people I'd grown up with. I swallowed hard. What about you? I asked, needing to deflect. How did you find out about him? About Daniel? He leaned back, staring down at his coffee. I always knew his first name, he said. My mom told me from the beginning. She was young when they met, waitressing at some bar. He was older, charming, made big promises. Said he was leaving his complicated situation, which I now realize probably meant his real family. He gave a humorless laugh. Then she got pregnant, and he vanished. My stomach twisted. She kept this one photo of him, Lucas continued. The one I sent you. When I got old enough to ask questions, she said he'd wanted me at first, but things were messy, that he had another life. But she always thought he might come back. He never did. And the DNA test? I asked. I did it because I was curious, he said with a shrug. I didn't expect any close family, maybe some cousins. He met my eyes. Then your name popped up. He studied my face again, this time differently. I didn't know if I should reach out, he admitted. I didn't want to blow up anyone's life if you had no idea. I guess that part already happened. Yeah, I said quietly. It did. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything hanging between us. Then slowly something else crept in, something sharp. So, I said, breaking the quiet, if he's your dad, and probably mine, that means he cheated on my mom with your mom. Or the other way around. Or both, Lucas said dryly. What if he was with neither of them officially, I said. What if he just floated through both our lives like a storm? Lucas tilted his head, considering that. Wouldn't surprise me, he said. The more we talked, the more I realized something. As terrible as it all was, as unfair and messy and painful, there was one fact I couldn't ignore. None of this was my fault. Not my birth. Not his absence. Not my mother's choices. Not my father's rage. Not my sister's cruelty. I had been born into a secret I didn't ask for. But what I did with that secret now, that was mine. Can I ask you something? Lucas said after a while. Sure. Do you hate him? He asked softly. Not your dad, Daniel, the guy we share. I stared at the table. Did I hate a man I had never met? A man I had never even known existed until last night? I don't know him enough to hate him, I said honestly. But I hate what he did. I hate that his ghost has been living in my house my whole life. In every fight my parents had, in every cold look my dad gave me when he thought I wasn't watching. I hate that my sister used him like a weapon. Lucas nodded slowly. I get that, he said. I spent years hating him. Then I got tired. Tired of letting someone who never showed up take up so much space in my head. Does it get easier? I asked. He thought about it. It doesn't get easier, he said. It just gets clearer. You start seeing where they end and you begin. I sat with that for a moment. Can I ask you something too? I said. Of course. If you had a chance to, I don't know, show him what he did, I said slowly, to make him see, would you take it? He leaned back, studying me again. But this time, he wasn't just seeing a girl whose life had been turned upside down. He was seeing something else, a spark. Depends, he said carefully. Why? What are you thinking? I hesitated. Up until that moment, revenge had just been a feeling, a shadow, a quiet thought in the back of my mind. But now, as I sat across from the one person who understood this twisted family puzzle, from the outside, it started to take shape. I'm thinking, I said, choosing my words, that my sister spent years making me feel like I didn't belong, like I was a stain. She used this secret, this man, as a way to humiliate me. She thought exposing the truth would break me. And, he prompted. And I'm tired of being the one who's broken, I said, my voice steadying. I think it's time the truth broke the right people. He watched me for a long time. You want to use me, he said, but there was no anger in his tone, just understanding. I didn't flinch. I want to use reality, I said. And if you're willing to help me, then yes. I want to use our connection, but I won't lie to you. I don't want to hurt you or your mom. I want the people who hurt me to finally be seen for who they really are. Silence. He drummed his fingers lightly on the table. Finally, he nodded. Tell me, he said. What did your sister do, besides the party thing? I laughed, bitter. Do you have all day? We've got time, he said. Start from the beginning. So I did. I told him about growing up in that house. How Rachel had always been the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect hair, perfect laugh. How she could do no wrong in my parents' eyes when we were kids. How every time something went missing or got broken, I was the one blamed, even when I swore it wasn't me. I told him about how she would whisper things to me when no one was listening. Dad's not really your dad, you know. Mom found you on the doorstep. She felt bad. You're the reason they fight. When I cried and told my mom, she would say things like, she's just teasing. Don't take it so seriously. You know she loves you. When I told Dad, he would go very quiet and say, "She shouldn't say things she doesn't understand," in this weird voice that didn't quite deny it. I told him about holidays where Rachel would get 3 big, carefully wrapped presents, and I would get one smaller thing and a half-hearted, money's tight this year. About being told I was too sensitive, too dramatic, too much, every time I reacted to one of Rachel's digs. About the time she accidentally posted a video of me crying after a fight on social media with the caption, "My sister being her usual extra self," and how her friends laughed in the comments. About all the little cuts that, put together, felt like one long, slow bleed. By the time I was done, my coffee was cold and my voice was hoarse. Lucas exhaled slowly. "She sounds intense," he said, choosing his word carefully. "Try cruel," I said flatly. "At least to me. To everyone else, she's charming. Funny, the life of the party, the sister who just jokes around." "And your parents?" "My mom avoids conflict like it's fire," I said. "My dad, I think he never really forgave her for whatever happened with Daniel. He stayed, but he never really came back. And I was the living reminder. So even when he tried to be nice, there was always this distance." I swallowed. "And now I know why." Lucas rubbed his jaw. "Okay," he said finally. "So what's your plan?" I stared out the window for a moment, watching people hurry past with their coffees and busy lives, unaware of the storm brewing at this little corner table. "I don't have all the details yet," I admitted. "But I know one thing. Rachel thinks she's the only one who can use a secret like a weapon. She thinks she's safe because she's the legitimate one, the chosen one, the real daughter." I met his eyes. "But what if she's not?" His brows pulled together. "What do you mean?" "The DNA test she gave me only had me and my dad listed," I said. "But the full results online showed more. You, our supposed father, connections, and I kept thinking she was so confident, so sure, so ready to humiliate me." I leaned in. "What if she never checked her own?" He blinked. "You think?" "I don't know what I think," I said. "But I know this. If my mom had a secret once, she could have had another. Or my dad could have. Or both. And Rachel might not be as safe on her pedestal as she believes." We sat with that idea, letting it sink in. "Have you seen her results?" he asked. "No," I said. "She never showed me. Just waved mine in my face." He tapped his fingers again, thinking. "So, step 1, he said slowly, is to get access to her account or a copy of her results." "Exactly," I said. "And step 2 is to find out if the story she tells herself about who she is actually matches reality." "And if it doesn't?" he asked. "Then," I said, feeling that cold, focused part of me sharpen, "I let the truth do to her what she tried to do to me. But this time I control when and how." He studied me, a small, surprised smile tugging at his lips. "You're not as fragile as you look, he said. "I can't afford to be," I replied. He nodded once. "Okay," he said. "I'm in." That surprised me. "You are?" "I've spent my whole life with half a story," he said. "If helping you means I finally get to know the rest, I'll take it. And if some awful people get exposed along the way, I'm not going to lose sleep over that." "Your mom?" I began. "I won't let anything touch her," he said firmly. "She's suffered enough. Whatever we do, we keep her out of the crossfire." I respected that. "Deal," I said. We shook hands across the table, an odd sort of pact between two strangers tied together by blood and betrayal. At that moment, I didn't know exactly how everything would play out. I didn't know just how deep the lies went. I didn't know that by the time it was over, none of us would be the same. All I knew was this. Rachel had started a war, and I was done losing. Getting access to Rachel's DNA results wasn't as hard as it should have been. For someone who enjoyed playing with people's lives, she was dangerously careless with her own privacy. My first real move came 3 days after the party. I went home. Not because I wanted to. Because it was a battlefield I couldn't avoid forever. When I walked through the front door, the house felt heavy. Like the walls were holding their breath. My mom was in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug of tea she wasn't drinking. Her eyes were swollen. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Maya," she whispered when she saw me. "Oh, thank God." She rushed to hug me. For a second, I let her. There's a strange comfort in the smell you grew up with. perfume and laundry detergent and something else that's just Mom. Then I pulled back. We need to talk, I said. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Yes, we do. Where's Dad? I asked. She flinched at the word. Upstairs, she said. He's been quiet. And Rachel? I forced myself to say her name without letting the anger sharpen it. At work, Mom said. She's been acting like nothing happened. Says she only told the truth. Of course she did. I'm sorry, Mom blurted. I'm so sorry, Maya. I never meant for it to happen this way. I should have told you myself, years ago, but I was afraid. Afraid of losing your father. Afraid of losing you. You didn't lose me, I said softly. Rachel did that for you. She winced. Why didn't you ever tell me? I asked. You had 22 years. She sank into a chair like her legs couldn't hold her up anymore. When I met your father, she said, staring at the table, I'd just come out of a complicated relationship with Daniel. He was charming and wild and unstable. We were on and off. I got pregnant, and when I told him, he panicked, said he wasn't ready, said he had things to figure out. Then he disappeared. My fingers curled around the back of the chair. I thought I'd raise you alone, she continued. I was scared, but I loved you from the moment I knew you were there. Then I met Mark. He was steady, kind. He knew I was pregnant when we started dating. I told him right away, and he still stayed. He said he would be there for you no matter what. A lump rose in my throat. He knew? I whispered. From the beginning? Yes, she said. At first it didn't matter. You were a baby, he loved you. We were happy. But after Rachel was born, things changed. He started looking at you and seeing him, seeing Daniel. He never said he regretted you. But sometimes, in his worst moments, he would ask if you were really his after all, even though he knew the truth. He just needed someone to blame when we fought. And you never corrected him? I asked, bitterness slipping through. You just let that poison grow? Tears slipped down her cheeks. I tried, she said. But every time we talked about it, we ended up in the same place. Him feeling betrayed, me feeling judged. So I tried to bury it. Pretend he was your father in every way. Because he was. He changed your diapers, went to your plays, taught you to ride a bike. He's the one who stayed. Except he hadn't stayed in that room on my birthday. I thought silently. He'd walked out. Why didn't you ever talk to me about it? I asked again, softly this time. Because I was ashamed, she said simply. Ashamed of my past. Ashamed of hurting him. Ashamed of how it would make you feel. I told myself I was protecting you. But I see now, I was just protecting myself from the fallout. We both sat with that. I'm so sorry, she said again. I know sorry can't fix this, but it's the only word I have. Do you know where he is? I asked. Daniel. She shook her head. He moved away years ago, she said. I heard he started another family somewhere. I don't know if it's true. I stopped asking. I had to let him go. He started another family. I thought of Lucas sitting across from me at that cafe, the little boy who had grown up asking about a man who never called. Mom, I said carefully, did you know he had a son? My age? Her eyes widened. No, she whispered. I suspected once. I saw something on social media years ago. A picture of him with a toddler. But I never knew for sure. I didn't want to know. I almost told her about Lucas right then. Almost. But then I remembered my promise to him. Keep his mom out of the crossfire. Right now, my house was the crossfire. Does Dad know I know? I asked. She nodded. He's hurt, she said. He feels humiliated, like everyone was laughing at him that night. He shouldn't have walked out, but he panicked. He didn't know what to say. He's upstairs if you want to talk to him. Did I? A few days ago, I would have said yes before she even finished the sentence. Now, I wasn't so sure. I'll think about it, I said. There was something else I needed first. Something that had to be done before I could face him. Mom, I said slowly, do you have Rachel's DNA login? The email? Anything? Her brows knitted together. Why? Because I need to see something, I said. I need to know if I really am the only secret in this house. She hesitated. I don't want any more fighting, she said weakly. I can't take it. This isn't about fighting, I said. It's about knowing the truth. Isn't that what Rachel always claims she wants for us? Bitterness crept back into my voice, and Mom winced. Finally, she nodded toward the counter. She used my laptop when she signed up, she said. She saved the password in the browser. I didn't know what she was doing. I thought it was just a silly heritage test everyone's doing these days. My heart sped up. I walked to the laptop like it was some sort of sacred object. My reflection stared back at me in the dark screen for a second before it lit up. I opened the browser, found the saved logins, and sure enough, there it was. Rachel's account, auto-filled. One click, and I was in. The layout was the same as mine had been. Same colors, same graphs, same promises of, discover who you really are. Who you really are, I muttered under my breath. Let's see. I went straight to the family matches. My name was there as expected. Mother, Linda Reed, parent-child, 50%, but my dad's name. I scrolled, breath caught. Father, no confirmed paternal match. My blood ran cold. I blinked, convinced I was reading it wrong. I scrolled back up, then down again. Nothing. No, I whispered. I clicked on the extended matches section, hoping for some kind of clarification. That's when I saw it. Under close family, possible half-sibling, right where Lucas had appeared on mine, there was another name on hers. But it wasn't my dad, and it wasn't Daniel. It was someone else entirely. A woman's name, and under her profile, shared DNA, 25%. Likely, half-sibling. That doesn't make sense, I whispered. I looked at my mother. Her face had gone completely white. Mom, I said slowly, did you know about this? She shook her head, eyes wide. I don't understand, she stammered. Rachel is your father's. I know she is. We were together then. There was no one else. There couldn't be. But the numbers didn't care what she believed. Rachel had no confirmed father match in the system, just like me. My heart pounded. What if Dad never did a test under his own name? I said suddenly. What if he used a different email, a different profile? That would explain why he doesn't show up. But even as I said it, something about that explanation felt thin. Because even if he hadn't done that test, the system would still show close matches through cousins, grandparents, extended family. On Rachel's profile, the only close family matches were on my mother's side. On my profile, there was a whole other branch. And on both of ours, no Reed cousins, no Reed uncles, no Reed grandparents, just Linda's side. And on mine, someone else's. A wild, impossible thought slammed into me. What if neither of us were his? What did you do, Mom? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What happened back then? She sank into the chair again, more slowly this time, like her body was giving up. She began, then stopped. My stomach twisted. Tell me the truth, I said. All of it. No more half stories, no more excuses. I can take it. I survived Rachel's little show. I can survive this. She looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something in her eyes I had never truly seen before. Fear. Not of being judged, not of losing my father, but of losing me. When your father and I got together, she said slowly, it wasn't simple. He was engaged to someone else. My breath caught. What? He broke it off for me, she said quickly. He called off the engagement. We were young, stupid, in love. Or we thought we were. But his ex-fiancée, she didn't take it well. I could imagine. She said she would never forgive me, Mom continued. She said I stole her future, her family, everything. She laughed weakly. And maybe I did, I don't know. I tried not to think about it. That still doesn't explain, I started. I saw her one last time, Mom whispered, cutting me off. A year after he left her, at a coffee shop. She asked to meet, said she wanted closure. I was naive. I said yes. She told me... Mom swallowed. She told me your father had always wanted a big family, that he'd always dreamed of having a daughter named Rachel, that he had talked about it with her, planned it. The room blurred. So, when we were expecting your sister, Mom said, I suggested the name. I thought, I don't know what I thought, that maybe it would heal something. That maybe if he got the future he always wanted, just with me, everything would be okay. My head spun. So Rachel's name, I said slowly, came from the life he planned with another woman? Mom nodded miserably. And the DNA? I pressed. The fact that she doesn't have his matches either? I don't know, Mom whispered. I swear, Maya. There was no one else for me then. But he went on a business trip a month before Rachel was conceived. He came back, different, quiet, distant for a while. Then we moved on. Or I thought we did. A horrible possibility formed in my mind. What if, I said slowly, my voice shaking, what if he isn't her father either? What if all these years he stayed angry at you, stayed cold to me, and the whole time neither of us were really his? The room seemed to tilt. My mother's eyes filled with tears again. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know anymore. Everything feels like it's crumbling. Not everything, I thought suddenly. Not for me. Because as awful as this all was, as unstable and painful, there was one thing I now had that I'd never had before. The truth. Not half-truths. Not whispered hints. Cold, hard, inescapable truth. And the truth wasn't just a burden. It was power. Rachel had swung the door open. Now she had to live with what walked through. I didn't confront her that day. It would have been easy to storm into her room, shove the laptop in her face, and shout, "Guess what, princess? You're not special either." But easy wasn't what I wanted. I wanted her to feel what I had felt. The confusion, the doubt, the ground shifting under your feet just enough that you start to question every memory you've ever had. And I wanted her to know, in the end, that she hadn't just been cruel. She had been sloppy. So I waited. I pretended to go back to my life. I answered my mother in short, careful sentences. I avoided my father, who seemed to exist in a fog upstairs, coming down only late at night to get food and then disappearing again. And I watched my sister. Rachel carried on like nothing had happened. She laughed loudly in the kitchen when her friends came over. She posted photos on social media about family time with captions like, "Nothing like a little truth to clear the air." She strutted through the house like she had done us all a favor. Every time she smirked at me in passing, every time she made some little comment like, "How's it feel not knowing who you are?" The fire inside me burned hotter, but I didn't show it. I smiled. I played dumb. I let her believe she had won. And in the background, I planned. Step 1 had already happened, discovering that Rachel's DNA results were not as clean as she thought. Step 2 was trickier. I couldn't just bring it up out of nowhere. She'd accuse me of hacking, of lying, of jealousy. No, I needed her to ask the question herself. I needed her to walk willingly into the same trap she'd set for me. That's where Lucas came in. We met again, this time at a quiet park, away from nosy eyes. I showed him everything. The screenshots of Rachel's profile, the missing paternal matches, the half-siblings she didn't know about. He whistled under his breath. "Wow," he said. "So everyone in your house is a mess." "Pretty much," I said. He looked at me seriously. "You know this could blow up big," he said. "Not just a family argument. This is the kind of thing that tears people apart." "Good," I said quietly. They were never really together in the first place. It was an act. Time to end it. "And your dad?" he asked. "The man who raised you." I hesitated. "I don't want to destroy him," I said. "But I can't keep carrying his resentment for choices I didn't make. If it turns out neither of us are his, maybe it'll finally force him to deal with the real problem, which has never been me, or Rachel. It's been the lies." He nodded slowly. "So how do you want to do this?" he asked. I took a breath. "I need you to meet them," I said. "Not as my friend, as exactly who you are, my half-brother looking for answers. I want you to knock on our door and let your existence crack whatever illusions Rachel still has left." "You sure?" he asked. "You're asking for a storm." "There's already a storm," I said. "I'm just choosing where the lightning hits." He studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay," he said. "Let's give your sister the truth she loves so much." The day we chose was a Sunday afternoon. Everyone was home. Rachel was in the living room, half watching some reality show and half scrolling through her phone. My mom was in the kitchen, pretending to do chores she'd already done twice over, just to keep her hands busy. My dad was in his study, door half open, staring at some old paperwork like if he focused hard enough, the last week would disappear. I knew their rhythms. I knew exactly where each of them would be. I was in the hallway when Lucas knocked. The sound echoed through the house in a way that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "I'll get it," I called out, forcing my voice to sound casual. I opened the door. Lucas stood there, looking calm but serious. He wore a plain button-down and jeans, nothing flashy. Just normal. The kind of normal that would make the truth hit even harder. "Ready?" he murmured. "As I'll ever be," I said. We'd agreed on one thing. No lies. He would tell his story exactly as it was. I would fill in the gaps with mine. Let them try to twist it. The DNA wouldn't care. I stepped aside. "Come in," I said. He walked into the entryway, glancing around at the family photos on the wall. Me and Rachel as kids, our parents at their wedding, school portraits, vacations. He paused at one photo in particular, the four of us at the beach. Me in an oversized t-shirt, awkward and sunburned. Rachel in a bikini, posing like she was already an influencer. My parents standing behind us, arms around each other. "Weird," he muttered. "It's like looking at a life I never got." Before I could answer, Rachel's voice floated down the hall. "Who is it?" "Someone for me," I said loudly. That got her attention. A beat later, she appeared at the edge of the hallway, phone still in hand. When she saw Lucas, she did a quick, obvious head-to-toe scan of him, then of me, then back to him. Her eyes narrowed. Hi," she said, forcing a fake friendly smile. "And you are?" I met Lucas's eyes and nodded. "My name is Lucas," he said calmly. "I'm Maya's half-brother. You could have heard a pin drop. Even the TV seemed to hush." Rachel's smile froze. "What?" she said. "Mom," I called, raising my voice just enough. "Can you come here a second?" She appeared in the doorway to the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel, her eyes tired. When she saw Lucas, she stopped. The dish towel slipped from her fingers. "No," she whispered. "It can't be." "It is," I said quietly. "What's going on?" another voice asked. My dad appeared at the top of the stairs, hand on the railing. He looked older than he had a week ago, the lines on his face deeper, his shoulders heavier. He looked down at us, at me, at Lucas. "Who is this?" he asked, his voice flat. "This is Lucas," I said. "He's my half-brother, on my biological father's side." A flicker of pain crossed his face at the word biological, but he stayed silent. Rachel laughed suddenly, a high, strained sound. "Oh my God," she said. "You're serious? This is like some bad soap opera? You just met him and brought him here? What, are you collecting siblings now?" Lucas ignored her. He looked straight at my mother. "You knew him," he said softly. "Didn't you?" She covered her mouth with her hand, tears springing to her eyes. "You look just like him," she whispered. "Just like Daniel." My dad's hand tightened on the banister. "I knew this was a mistake," he muttered. Rachel's head snapped toward him. "What did you say?" she asked. "Everyone come to the living room," I said firmly before he could retreat again. "We're not doing this in the hallway." There was a moment where I thought he might turn and go back upstairs, slam the door and lock himself away like he had all week. But then he surprised me. He walked down the stairs, each step slow but deliberate, and joined us. We moved into the living room. Rachel sat on the arm of the sofa, arms folded, trying to look unfazed. My mom perched on the edge of a chair, fingers twisted together. My dad stood behind the couch, as if he needed something to hold on to. Lucas and I sat on the other couch, side by side. For a long moment, nobody spoke. "What do you want from us?" my dad asked finally, looking at Lucas like he was some kind of intruder. "Nothing," Lucas said simply. "I didn't even plan to come here until recently. I took a DNA test months ago. I've lived my whole life without knowing him. I can keep doing that. But when I matched with Maya, and then I heard what happened at her birthday, I realized your family was living in a lie that was tearing her apart. I thought maybe it was time for some honesty." My dad's jaw clenched. "Honesty," he repeated, like the word tasted bitter. "Yeah," Lucas said. "That thing you all talk about wanting, but never actually give her." Rachel scoffed. "Excuse me?" she said. "You don't know anything about us." "I know enough," he said calmly. "I know that you thought it was funny to expose her DNA results in front of a room full of people. I know you thought finding out your dad wasn't her father would humiliate her." His gaze sharpened. "But here's something you didn't know. he said. That test didn't just expose one secret. It exposed several. Rachel frowned. What are you talking about? She demanded. I pulled my phone out. I'd taken photos of the screen from my mother's laptop. Rachel's account, the missing matches, the strange half-sibling. I opened the first picture and held it up. This, I said, is your DNA profile, Rachel. From the same site you used to print mine. Recognize the layout? Her face paled slightly. How did you logged in on Mom's laptop, I cut in. It saved the password. You claimed you were all about truth. So I assumed you wouldn't mind if I took a look at the full picture. Her eyes flashed. You had no right, I snapped louder, to turn my identity into a party game. You had no right to throw my life open without my consent. You don't get to talk to me about rights. She shut her mouth. I took a breath, forcing my voice to steady. You said you wanted the truth, I said. So here it is. Your DNA shows Mom as your mother, obviously. But do you know what's missing? I turned the phone so she could see it more clearly. No confirmed paternal match, I said, just like mine. Her eyes flicked over the screen, trying to process the words. That doesn't mean anything, she said, but her voice had lost some of its bite. Maybe Dad just didn't do the test. That's possible, I said. But then we'd see other Reed relatives pop up, cousins, uncles, grandparents. We don't. On your profile, there's only Mom's side, same as mine. And on mine, there's a whole extra branch from him. I nodded at Lucas. He leaned forward slightly. I share DNA with Maya, he said. A lot. Enough that the test says we're half-siblings. We share a father, Daniel Meyer. He let the name hang in the air. My dad flinched. Rachel frowned. So what? She said, but there was a crack in her tone now. That just proves what we already knew. Mom cheated before she got with Dad. That's not new. Actually, I said, it proves something else too. That you didn't bother to look at your own results before throwing mine in my face. Her head jerked. Check the matches again, I said, handing my phone to her. Reluctantly, she took it. Her finger scrolled, stopped, her eyes widened. Under the close family possible half-sibling section, just like on my profile, there was a name. But it wasn't mine. Or Lucas's. It was someone else. A woman in her late 40s. Same last name as my dad's ex-fiancée, the one Mom had told me about. I watched the realization wash over her in stages. Confusion. Denial. A flicker of fear. What is this? She stammered. That, I said softly, is likely your half-sibling. On Dad's side, not Mom's. Which means there's a very real chance that when he walked out on his fiancée all those years ago, he left more behind than just a broken engagement. I looked at my father. His face had gone rigid. Is that true? I asked quietly. Did you have a child with her? Silence stretched. Mom looked at him, betrayal widening her eyes. Mark, she whispered. He swallowed. Before I met you, he said hoarsely to my mother, we were trying for a year. It never happened. Then I met you, and everything moved fast, too fast. I told her I couldn't do it, that I was in love with someone else. He laughed bitterly. She told me she was late, said it might be nothing. I didn't believe her, or maybe I didn't want to. He closed his eyes. I never found out, he said. She left town. I married you. I told myself, if it were true, she would tell me. Ask for something. She never did. So I buried it. I convinced myself I'd imagined it, that I was starting fresh. My mom stared at him like she'd never seen him before. You knew, she said, voice shaking. You knew there might be another child out there and you never told me? I didn't know for sure, he said weakly. And you were already pregnant with another man's child, she finished, her voice cracking. And you stayed, I said quietly. You stayed, holding that over her. He looked at me. Don't, he said. Don't make it sound so simple. Isn't it? I said. You stayed, but you never forgave her. You raised me, but you never really let go of what she did. And now we're finding out you might have done the exact same thing to someone else. Rachel shook her head slowly, like she was trying to physically shake off the implications. No, she whispered. No, this is insane. You're twisting everything. None of this matters. The point is still the same. You're not his. Then neither are you, I said calmly. Her head snapped up. What? If that half-sibling match is real, I said, and if Dad is really connected to her, then his side of the family still doesn't show up as a parent on your profile either. Which means one of two things. Either he never did a test and we're all just reading tea leaves, or neither of us are his biological children. The words hung in the air like smoke. My dad's face went red. How dare you, he growled. After everything I've done for you. For us, I corrected. You did it for both of us. If you did it at all. Because now it seems like what you really did was build a life on half-truths and then punish everyone else for the cracks. He stared at me, shock and anger warring in his expression. You ungrateful... Ungrateful? I cut in, my voice rising. I have been grateful my whole life, for scraps, for cold approval, for being allowed to stay in a house where I was constantly reminded that I was an accident, a mistake, a problem. I bent myself into shapes to make you comfortable with a past that wasn't even mine. Tears blurred my vision, but I didn't let them fall yet. And then, I said, your perfect daughter decided to weaponize the one thing you never had the courage to say out loud. She used it to humiliate me, to entertain people, to laugh. And you walked out. You left me there, in front of everyone, to carry a secret you helped create. You didn't even look back. His lips parted, but no words came out. And now, I continued, breath hitching, now it turns out you might not have been this pure, betrayed victim after all. You might have your own ghost child out there, maybe more. Rachel shook her head again, tears starting to well in her eyes now too. Stop, she whispered. Just stop. Why? I asked, turning to her. Isn't this what you wanted from me? Full exposure, brutal truth, no more lies. You said you did that for the family, to heal us. This isn't the same, she snapped. Isn't it? I said. Or is it only okay when you're not the one standing in the spotlight? She opened her mouth, closed it. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. Not just the panic of being caught in a bad prank. The deep, soul-level fear of realizing the story you built your identity on might not be real. You don't know that he's not my father, she said weakly. You're jumping to conclusions. That match could be a mistake. The site could be wrong. You hacked my account. I didn't hack anything, I said. You left it open. Like you leave everything open. Careless. Confident that nothing you do will ever come back to you. I leaned forward. You were so busy looking down on me for being the outsider that you never once considered you might be standing on just as thin a ledge. My voice softened slightly. You called me another man's mistake in front of people I loved, I said. You made my existence into a joke. You acted like my whole worth came down to whose DNA showed up on a report. And you did it while you were sitting on your own unanswered questions. Her lips trembled. That's not fair, she whispered. I didn't know. Exactly, I said. You didn't know. You never checked your own story. You just attacked mine. That's the problem, Rachel. You never know, you just assume. And then you hurt people with those assumptions and call it honesty. She looked away, jaw clenched, but I saw the way her fingers dug into her own arms, the way her breathing quickened. She was cracking. Good. But I wasn't done. This isn't just about DNA, I said. It's about the way you treat people, the way you treated me, the way you used the worst fear I had, that I didn't belong here, as entertainment. I took a deep breath. So here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to sit with this doubt, with this question about who you are. You're going to feel it the way I've felt it my entire life. And when you're tempted to lash out, to make a joke, to hurt someone else so you don't have to feel your own pain, I want you to remember this moment. Her eyes flashed. You can't make me feel guilty for the rest of my life, she spat. I did one bad thing. One? I laughed, a sharp sound. Rachel, you've spent years chipping away at me, mocking me, using my insecurity as a toy. This wasn't a one-time lapse. This was the peak of a pattern. Why are you doing this? She demanded. What do you want from me? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry, okay? I shouldn't have done it. I went too far. Happy? I stared at her. No, I said. I don't want your apology. I want your awareness. She frowned. Your awareness that your actions have consequences, I said. That when you throw rocks, sometimes the glass breaks on your own side too. That you don't get to live your whole life untouched by the fallout you create. I stood. I can't change the fact that I'm not Dad's biological daughter, I said. I can't change the fact that my real father walked away from 2 kids and never looked back. I can't change what Mom did or what Dad did or what you did. I looked around at all of them. But I can change my role in this house, I said. I'm done being the designated mistake. I'm done absorbing everyone's guilt and anger. I'm done letting you define me by things you did long before I was born. My voice steadied. So here's my revenge, I said quietly. I'm walking away from your version of me, from your labels, from your twisted idea of family. I'm going to build a life where I'm not someone's secret or someone's regret. I'm going to get to know the brother I never had, on my own terms. And if any of you want to be part of that life, you're going to have to come to me as honest, broken, complicated humans. Not as judges, not as victims, but as people who finally stopped lying. There was a long, stunned silence. My dad looked like he'd been punched. My mom was crying silently. Rachel stared at me, cheeks wet, mascara running, breathing hard. You can't just leave, she said weakly. You're being dramatic. You always do this. I'm not storming out, I said. Not this time. I'm not slamming doors. I'm just stepping outside the script you all wrote for me. I turned to Lucas. You coming? I asked softly. He stood up. Yeah, he said. I think we're done here for now. We walked toward the door together. As my hand touched the knob, I heard my father's voice behind me. Maya, he said. I paused. I may not be your father by blood, he said hoarsely, but I changed your diapers. I stayed up with you when you were sick. I worked double shifts so you could go to that summer camp you loved. I was there. That has to count for something. I turned back to look at him. I know, I said. It does. That's why this hurts so much. Because somewhere along the way, you let your anger at Mom and at him bleed into the way you looked at me. You let me feel like a burden for a choice I never made. You let Rachel treat me the way she did because she mirrored how you felt. You may have been here in action, but emotionally, you left a long time before I did. He flinched. I softened my tone, just a little. I'm not erasing what you did for me, I said. I'm saying if you want to keep being in my life, it can't be built on resentment anymore. It has to be a choice you make now, not a role you got stuck with and never forgave anyone for. He looked down, shoulders trembling. I didn't wait for his answer. I opened the door, stepped out into the sunlight, and exhaled. It felt different this time, like I wasn't running, like I was choosing. The months that followed weren't easy. Revenge doesn't magically heal the holes in your heart. Exposing the truth doesn't stitch you back together overnight. What it does is stop you from bleeding in the dark. After that day, the house became a different kind of battlefield. My parents finally had the fights they'd been avoiding for decades. Loud, raw, honest. Old wounds dragged into the light. Words said that should have been said years ago. They argued about Daniel, about the ex-fiancé, about the possibility of another child somewhere out there with my father's eyes and none of his support. They argued about us, about the way they'd raised Rachel and me so differently, about the subtle favoritism, about the things they let slide because they didn't want to rock the boat. Rachel withdrew at first. She stayed in her room, stopped posting our perfect family pictures online, stopped making little jokes at my expense. For a while, she was just quiet. I moved out, not in a dramatic suitcase-dragging scene. I packed my things over a week with Lucas's help. We found a small, cheap apartment on the edge of the city, peeling paint, loud neighbors, terrible parking. It was the most peaceful place I'd ever lived. We ate takeout on the floor our first night there, surrounded by boxes. Does it feel weird? Lucas asked, chewing on a fry. Living with someone you've only known a few months, but who's technically your brother. A little, I admitted. But it also feels right. Like I'm finally choosing who my family is, instead of just accepting who I was handed. He smiled. Same, he said. We didn't become instantly close. Real relationships don't work like that. We annoyed each other. We argued about dishes and bills and whose turn it was to take out the trash. We learned each other's habits and moods. We pushed and pulled and slowly, painfully built something new. Trust. Not the kind that comes from shared childhoods and photo albums. The kind that comes from choosing to show up for each other, even when it's inconvenient. My mother visited sometimes. At first, she showed up with bags of groceries and worried eyes, hovering near the door like she was afraid I'd slam it in her face. I didn't. I let her in. We talked, not like mother and obedient daughter. Like two women who had both been hurt and had both done their share of hurting. She told me more stories about her youth, about the loneliness that led her into Daniel's arms, about the guilt that kept her silent all those years. I listened, and slowly I started to forgive her. Not because she deserved a quick pass, because holding on to that anger was just another way of letting the past define me. My father took longer. He didn't visit at all for 2 months. Then, one evening, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, he was standing there, looking smaller somehow, like the weight he'd been carrying had finally crushed some of the stiffness out of him. "I didn't know if you'd answer," he said quietly. "I almost didn't," I admitted. We stood there in awkward silence for a moment. Then he held up a small, worn photo album. "I brought this," he said. "Thought you might want it. Or maybe you don't. I won't be offended if you throw it out." I took it. The cover was cracked. The pages inside were thick and slightly yellowed. When I opened it, the first picture was of him holding me in the hospital. I was red and squished and crying. He looked terrified and in love all at once. I swallowed. "You're my daughter," he said simply. "No matter what any test says. But I understand if you don't feel that way right now. I understand if you never do again. I needed you to know I'm trying. I'm in therapy, with Mom, alone. I'm working on not letting my shame turn into anger at the wrong people." I studied his face. For the first time, I saw a man, not just a role. A flawed, scared, hurting man who had never really been taught how to handle his emotions without letting them spill onto others. "Good," I said softly. "I hope you keep going. For you, not just for me." He nodded. "I also did something else," he said. I raised a brow. "I took the test," he said. "Under my own name this time. I wanted to know. About everything." My heart skipped. "And?" I asked. He let out a long breath. "You and Lucas share a father," he said. "I don't. The site confirmed it. And I have a daughter out there, with her, my ex. She shows up as a half-sibling to Rachel. She doesn't live far. I might meet her, if she wants to. I owe her that much." Something in my chest loosened. Not because the news was good, because it was real. "And Rachel?" I asked. He looked down. "She's mine," he said. "Biologically. The test confirmed it, but..." He sighed. "I failed both of you in different ways. You, by never really letting go of my resentment. Her, by putting her on a pedestal so high, she never learned what it meant to stand on her own without stepping on someone else." I thought of all the times he'd laughed at her jokes about me. All the times he'd let them slide because that's just how she is. Maybe he was finally seeing it. "She wants to talk to you," he said. My stomach tightened. "I'm not ready," I said. "I know," he said. "I told her that. I told her if she really wants to make things right, she has to do it on your timeline, not hers. She didn't like that." A small, sad smile tugged at his mouth. But maybe that's the first lesson she needs to learn. We stood in the doorway for another moment. "Thank you for coming," I said finally. "Thank you for opening the door," he replied. I watched him walk away, the album heavy in my hands. When I closed the door, Lucas looked up from the couch, where he'd been pretending not to listen. "You good?" he asked. "Getting there," I said. He nodded. "Families are wild," he muttered. I laughed. "You have no idea," I said. But he did. We both did. It took almost a year before I agreed to sit down with Rachel. We met at a quiet diner off the highway, neutral ground. She walked in wearing less makeup than I'd ever seen on her. No bold lipstick, no thick eyeliner, just her face, unfiltered, vulnerable. For a second, I saw the girl she'd been before all the noise and expectations. She sat down across from me, fingers fidgeting with the edge of a napkin. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," I replied. We ordered coffee. The silence between us felt different this time. Not loaded with tension, loaded with possibility. Finally, she spoke. "I've been going to therapy," she blurted. "Good," I said, and meant it. She let out a shaky laugh. My therapist says I hide behind jokes, she said, that I use other people's pain as a shield so I don't have to look at my own. Sounds about right, I said gently. She nodded. I was jealous of you, she said suddenly. I blinked. Of me? I asked. The family mistake? She winced, but kept going. Yeah, she said. You always felt things, deeply. You cried, you got angry, you spoke up even when everyone told you to calm down. I thought that made you weak. But my therapist says it means you were actually processing stuff. Meanwhile, I was just performing. For Dad, for Mom, for everyone. She met my eyes. I knew something was wrong in the house, she said. Even when I was a kid, I heard the fights. I saw the way Dad looked at you sometimes. I saw Mom's guilt. But instead of facing it, I turned it into a joke. I turned you into the problem, so I wouldn't have to look at them. Or at myself. Pain flashed across her features. When I ordered those tests, I told myself I was doing a good thing, she said. That if we got it out officially, we could all move on. I pictured some dramatic moment where the truth came out and somehow healed everything. I didn't think about you sitting there, surrounded by people, having your whole world pulled out from under you. I didn't think about what it would really feel like. She swallowed. I just wanted control, she admitted, over a story that always felt out of my hands. I thought if I was the one to reveal it, I wouldn't have to feel so helpless. Tears stung my eyes. So you made me helpless instead, I said quietly. She nodded, eyes filling. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know sorry isn't enough. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness just because I finally see it. But I needed you to hear it from me. No jokes, no excuses. I hurt you, on purpose, because I was too much of a coward to sit with my own pain. For a long moment, I just breathed, in, out, letting her words settle. I won't pretend I'm over it, I said finally. There are days I still feel that humiliation, like it just happened. There are nights I wake up hearing your toast in my ears. She winced. But, I continued, I also know you're not a monster. Or at least you weren't born one. You were raised in the same house I was, just on a different level of the same sinking ship. You were rewarded for being sharp and cruel, for making people laugh instead of making them uncomfortable with the truth. You learned that power meant never having to be the vulnerable one on the floor. I took a breath. I can't go back to the way things were, I said. We're never going to be the sisters in those cheesy commercials who share everything and braid each other's hair. That was never us. But maybe we can be something else. Two flawed people who stopped pretending. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I'd like that, she whispered. We sat there, two women in a cheap diner, sipping coffee that had been boiled one too many times, starting something that wasn't quite forgiveness and wasn't quite friendship. But it was real. And for the first time in my life, that felt like enough. People hear my story now and ask me if I regret anything. Do I regret opening that envelope? Do I regret bringing Lucas into the house? Do I regret exposing Rachel's own fragile foundation? Sometimes, late at night, when the city is quiet and my mind is loud, I think about that birthday. I think about the moment I held that paper in my hand and saw 0.0% printed in black ink, and felt my whole identity tilt. It would be easy to say I regret it, that I wish I could go back to not knowing, to living in that comfortable, suffocating fog. But the truth is, I don't. Because knowing hurt me. It cracked me open. It burned away illusions I'd been using to survive. But it also freed me from being another man's mistake, from being the scapegoat, from being the quiet absorber of everyone else's sins. Now, I know exactly who I am. I am the daughter of a woman who made bad choices and stayed to face them. I am the raised child of a man who let resentment harden him, but is finally trying to soften again. I am the half-sister of a boy who grew up wondering if his father ever thought of him, and who chose to show up for me when my own family tried to tear me apart. I am the sister of a girl who hid her fear behind jokes and cruelty, and who is finally learning to stand without pushing someone else down. I am not a mistake. I am the consequence of other people's choices, and I am the author of my own. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that revenge doesn't always look like screaming or breaking things or turning cold. Sometimes the strongest revenge is refusing to play the role you were given, refusing to carry shame that isn't yours, refusing to be small so someone else can feel big. The truth exposed my family's biggest secret. It exposed more than one. But it also exposed something else, that I am more than their lies. And no DNA test can ever take that away.